What's up, Lions fans? Welcome to Season 1, Episode 18 of the Lions Main Podcast. On today's episode, we cover the beatdown in Dallas, a game that is tied for the 10th largest victory in Lions history. We'll give out our game balls, and we'll discuss the elephant in the room. What's Brad Holmes' next move? Is it next man up? Is it too early to bring in help? Should we get edge reinforcement immediately? We have a lot to discuss on today's episode. Once again, you can find us on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at the Lions Main Podcast. Feel free to subscribe, follow, and comment your thoughts on all platforms. Thanks for your support as always. Let's begin.
This is the Lions Main Podcast.
I woke up this morning and I didn't feel great. Why though? We came into this game fired up. Coaches, players, the fans, and even on our Dallas preview, Drew echoed the emotions of all Detroit Lions fans, the emotions that we felt about this game. This wasn't just any game. This was a game against a team for the last 10 years got the best of us. We felt robbed in 2015 during the NFC wildcard game, and then we felt those same sentiments again in Week 17 of 2023. Hashtag Decker reported. We hadn't beaten Dallas since 2013, and last night we beat them so badly on Jared Jones' birthday that media outlets this morning have been calling for the Dallas Cowboys to fire and hire as needed. You might not see it, but on the second game of our revenge tour, you're welcome Seattle, we dismantled the Dallas Cowboys season. They're already looking forward to the changes they need to make heading into this offseason. And if I'm being honest, we could have beat that ass just a little bit more. All that to say, for some reason, I didn't feel great this morning. We won the battle. So looking at the game, Coach Campbell saw what we all saw and highlighted another excellent performance from Jared Goff. 315 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 153.8 passer rating, compared to Dak's 178 yards and 2 interceptions, who every single day moving forward, looks like he'll be the quarterback of either the New York Jets or Las Vegas Raiders next year. I know Dallas had injuries, but Detroit's offensive line literally embarrassed an entire position group. 184 yards rushing, led by the two-headed monster. 7 different receivers featuring touchdowns from Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Sam Laporta. Talk about embarrassing. Not one, but 2 attempts to get Lions offensive linemen in the end zone. Hashtag Decker reported. Ben Johnson is a freak of nature, and his brain should be studied when he meets his demise. But defense wins championships, and what a performance that was. 5 turnovers brought to you by the best safety tandem in the league. Brian Branch is the best player on our defense now, and Kirby Joseph is the best free safety in the league. Argue with your mother. A masterclass from Aaron Glenn, and outside of early penalties, a holistically sound defensive game. I'm not done though. Special teams is comprised of special players. Jake Bates went 100% from the field, hit him with the Wendy's fo, and he's still only one of 6 starting kickers to have 100% field goal percentage on the season. Craziest stat of the day, not completely unheard of, but foreign to us Lions fans, Jack Fox didn't touch the field today. We for sure won the battle. In a game that could feature 53 separate different game balls, what's your guys' thoughts on the overall performance of the Lions this past game? And who would you guys want to highlight? Who you guys want to give your game balls to?
I could kick it off. I'll start. Tim Patrick. He didn't have the best game out of all our receivers, but he was 3 for 3, 68 yards, caught all his targets, and he made some big plays. Like one of those passes was for 40 plus yards, and it kind of like created a little bit of separation, got us out ahead, early on. It's, they were clutch, felt good right at the beginning of the game. You're like Tim Patrick, and we've been wondering what would happen with, Josh Reynolds and all that. And Tim stepped up. It's exciting to see, and so that's why he gets my game ball. I think 3 other receivers did better than him, but, we weren't expecting Tim to have like this much of an impact, and he did have an impact on this game.
I like that one. I love that one. I think it's kind of funny that he's just. I think that this game kind of like was his coming out party for him taking that Josh Reynolds spot. Something we talked about like in the preseason. Who was it going to be? I know that like we tossed around Isaiah Williams' name, but it seems to me at least that Tim Patrick has solidified his wide receiver 3 position. And it's kind of funny because Josh Reynolds is now on the Broncos, and Tim Patrick, of course, came from the Broncos after missing a couple of years. I'm also just super happy for Tim Patrick. Everything I've heard about the guy is like stand-up dude, like a Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes type of guy, like great locker room guy, and he suffered back-to-back ACL and Achilles injuries. And so for him to come back, I think he's 30 years old. So like for him to come out and like he almost had a touchdown, right? Like touchdown got called back this game. But he had like a bunch of other, like you said, 3 other good catches and yeah, I just love to see it. And I think his role it only expands from here,
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm not even going to try to give a game ball. There's too many people to give a game ball to. I mean, literally pick your poison. I'll take a game ball away from Jordan Lewis of the Cowboys, a Detroit native, but he can go shove it. And also Trayvon Diggs. I've never seen someone who's an all-pro level player look so pathetic out there. Like the Cowboys defense is banged up, but I think that entire secondary of the Cowboys deserves an anti-game ball. Whatever the opposite of a game ball is, maybe a game cartoon out to the head.
They literally quit.
Didn't seem like they were ever ready. Just got burned a lot too.
Getting paid millions of dollars. You pay me millions of dollars, I'll go get massive concussions out there for free.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mike.
Not for free,
but it was sometime in the third quarter where they just like lines lined up to snap the ball, and it wasn't on the there was one time where JMO they like ran up, and I think they even talked about it on the broadcast, like fast counted. But there was another point where I think it was like it ended up being like a Monty or it was Gibbs like a gap run, and they just weren't even ready. They just were standing like lethargic. Sun was in their eyes.
Yeah, I was telling my girlfriend I hate that stadium. Like even watching it when the team is going in one direction with that horrible design, it can't even. It hurts the Cowboys half the time. Why would they even want that? It's horrible.
I was reading for other events at the stadium, they put curtains up, and the sun is blocked. But like for the games, because what is the reason for that? Is there like a monument or something that shot?
Maybe
like,
see the city skyline or something.
Jerry Jones designed it that way.
Right.
It was.
They're in Arlington, Texas. That stadium does not have a skyline. Jerry Jones just a monument to his own greed. And
right, that's what I thought.
By the way, Buddy thought he was the reason the Cowboys won those titles. Fires Jimmy Johnson, Hall of Fame coach. He wins one more because of a great trifecta with Barry Switzer. Has not come close since. I don't hate Jerry Jones like a lot of people, but dude is washed, and it couldn't happen to a better fan base.
Yeah,
I agree with you. Yeah,
but
Jude, go ahead.
It was I notably on 2 weeks ago talking about the recap of the Seahawks game. I had some, I wouldn't say Jared Goff hate, but definitely like some questions or just asking the pod members if his performance against the Seahawks made him elite, and I think it would be I'll hand up. I after this performance, I'm fully back on the Goff train. I thought he played superb. He was nearly perfect. I mean, it's funny because we now know what perfect looks like from Goff. But yeah, he masterclass performance. He didn't ever seem to be like throw anything into a tight window or force anything downfield. We got to see him scramble a little bit. I thought that was kind of funny. He took off and ran a few times, which was fun to see. But yeah, I mean, if anybody, it's going to Goff. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but the videos that the Lions post after every game, the locker room videos. I'm sure we're all tuned into that.
Dan Campbell gave him the game ball after not giving him the game ball against the Seahawks. And Jared Goff gave it right back to Dan Campbell. And I don't know, it's just,
That made you shed a tear?
It made me a little emotional. It was an emotional game.
It's a selfless move by our leader. It's cool to see that.
And and you're spot on, George. And in a time where, like, there's, we'll get into this, but there's like a gap now in leadership. I thought it was like, I don't know, it was great to see. And Jared Goff, you're good enough to Detroit.
No, this isn't meant to chastise you, Drew, but for anybody, when Jared Goff has a 2-game bad stretch in the middle of the season, don't anybody say, I want to hear no unironic get Hooker in there. I want to hear no Jared Goff is garbage. I don't want to hear it. He's going to have some bad games. He's going to get pressure some games. We're going to lose a couple random bullshit games. It happens. The dude is our best quarterback. He's had our most success in the Lions uniform since the 1950s. So I don't want to hear any
right
from anybody. Not just you. This isn't aimed at you. This is more, since you brought the point up, it's aimed at the general public and Woodward Sports and all the
other
people
fans.
That do
Yeah.
So.
No, but I'll push back on one thing. I do want to be texting the group, hey, get Hendon Hooker in there because Goss put the game away in the third quarter. I do want to be texting that.
We want to treat the fourth quarter like it's a preseason game.
Absolutely.
Right. Get the boys out there.
Yeah, so the last game ball that I want to give out to the guys, it's obvious, but with the gap in on-the-field leadership that we're going to see in our defense, the safeties, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, it's time to lead through the performance on the field. Aidan's still going to be that vocal leader on the sideline. Like, he's not dead. He's still going to be there, but we need those performances to be consistent throughout the year. So that's where my game ball's going to, both of those guys out there. Best safety tandem in football.
Easily.
Check the stats. So Kirby Joseph right now is number 2 in interceptions, and Brian Branch is tied for number 3, I believe.
Do we know who's number 1?
I think it's a guy on the Packers.
McKinney.
I'll say this.
Yeah.
I don't have any stats to contend that. I'll just say, I'll add this. I'll take Kirby Joseph standing in the end zone versus any safety in the NFL.
Yeah. Red zone safety, he's probably the best in the league. Also, unlike, I think you saw last year, not to call out a specific NFL player, but Geno Stone left the Ravens, and he's been pretty bad so far this year. He was a merchant of having good players around him. You watch Kirby Joseph, and that's not the case. He's coming up. He's making hard hits. He's picking off one-on-one balls. He's in the right spot at the right time. Like, people last year, this happens all the time where players get signed for a bunch of money because everyone else around them look good. But Kirby has been, if you actually watch the games, it's not just because of what everybody else is doing. He's making plays happen. So, obviously, everyone, I think the national media loves Brian Branch. I think people unfairly think Kirby Joseph's a dirty player and not a great player, but he rocks.
Hey, let them think whatever they want. We all know this, and everybody listening, like, we could get game ball to literally anybody, any coach on this team. It was sound football all around. Moving into the next topic that we want to get into, I know George gets a little emotional over this, but it's hard to even speak about, seriously. I was telling George before we got on the call that because of his time at Michigan, Aidan and I have been together for 6 years. You guys say I laugh at that. I'm not being serious. But no, I watched the guy grow up all the way throughout Michigan, and obviously his development with the Lions and actually being a leader, like, for an NFL team, right? So
when you say been together, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, that was the joke.
Pause.
You're a little late, buddy. Anyways.
Pause. That's like the pause thing.
So it's looking like...
Hey, cut this.
You're in. So it's looking like he's out for no less than 8 months, no more than 12. He's out for the season. I feel like we won the battle, but we lost the war. George, what are we doing next?
Hey,
what's our plan?
I'm going to jump in real quick here before you go, George. I just wanted to share a quick thing. Obviously, like lost Aidan, and what we're going to talk about next is how we're what the next steps are. But Aidan finished the season. Here was where PFF graded him: number 1 overall defender, number 1 edge defender, most pressures with 45. Next closest was 35. Best pass rush win rate with 38.3. Next closest was 27.5. And so we're going to get into this, but there is no replacing Hutch. There we can bring in guys, but like as far as what he did on the field, as far as what he meant to this team this season, there's no replacing that. He was the heartbeat of that defense. You saw how the guys stepped up, and so, yeah, I mean,
right, everything he
pretty
brings,
soul crushing,
right, from his performance, but also the spirit and the type of man that he is.
No wonder George is crying in the club. No wonder he's crying at Tin Roof.
I got tears in my eyes.
You're not supposed to say that. I snuck to the bathroom to do that. That was supposed to be in the group message. No one's supposed to know about that. No, but I did. It was sickening. Yeah. It was sickening. I mean, sitting there, I was like, in shock. And then when you see CeeDee Lamb and he's like sitting there emotional, it's like, that's when I was like, yeah, fuck, I got to get the fuck out of here. I was like, I can't cry in front of everybody right now. And went to the bathroom. Didn't cry a ton, but, wiped my tears, got back out there. And, shout out to my buddy Emil. He's sitting there trying to give me the doctor report. I'm like, oh, he could be back, blah, 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 blah. It's okay. He's like rubbing my shoulder. Like, sitting there sick, man.
Yeah. Nothing you can say, Emil, is going to help me right now. But thank you, though.
Right. And we're beating their ass. So, like, my brother's sitting there. He doesn't really understand, like, why I'm like now just bummed. I mean, he gets it, but, like, like, we're kicking ass. Like, people don't understand. But it's like, fuck, doesn't feel like a win.
Doesn't feel like a win. And, like, as you were saying, we can't obviously outright replace Aidan. But surely there's individuals that we can bring in to at least suffice or help. And so I wanted to get your take on what you think the next move should be.
Well, I think Maxx Crosby. Shout out to the Maction, Eastern Michigan. He's over there just dying with the Raiders right now, and you hate to see that. Right. And I think he's got a big contract, signed a huge deal. He's perhaps one of the best players in the NFL right now. And we know if we want to go to the Super Bowl, the edge position is like one of the most impactful positions in football. You have 100%. An edge defender, you changes the game every time, especially against elite quarterbacks. And that's what we'll be facing, if God willing, we get to the playoffs and beyond. That's what we're going to need. So yeah, Maxx Crosby, he said Raider for life. Fuck that shit. That's political ass answer that gets the fans fired up. That's cool. But he said the only other team he'd play for is Detroit, the team he grew up loving. So, hey, what are your guys' thoughts?
Fan fiction. I mean, that's some great fan fiction for sure. If we wanted to all get on Reddit and type up a little story about how our hometown hero came back, and that's great. But in reality, it ain't happening, pal. They ain't getting him. That's not
why.
Well,
go ahead, fill us in.
Thank you for asking. A couple reasons. And by the way, I wasn't laughing about Aidan being hurt. I was laughing at the idea of you walking away to the bathroom. Not that it's like funny in the sense of like I think you're like lame for it. I just love the idea of
digging yourself a hole over there.
Yeah,
you're just a piece of shit guy. Right, it sounds like
Jim was
laughing or crying. Now, anyways, it's
no. Jim, you were laughing, thinking about the Marvel character walking into Aidan Hutchinson's hospital room to tell him his tibia fibula fracture was terminal.
Yes. Actually, we did talk about that before the game or before this podcast, and I do think there would be some slight dark humor to someone like dressed up in a costume hitting the gritty while he's laying in bed, fighting for his life. But anyways, the fan
maybe while Luigi dresses up.
Fan fiction I had for a couple reasons. It would take reportedly the Raiders won't even consider offers for even multiple first round picks. Al Davis, one of the poorest owners in the NFL, literally one of the most cash poor owners in the NFL. If he starts selling assets of that team and the value goes down, all of his a lot of rich people, especially ones that are all concentrated in one asset, they take out loans against that asset and cash flows of that asset in order to fund their lifestyle. Because otherwise, Al Davis doesn't have enough business interests to basically fund the life he lives. So he's not trading away a star player that is signed to a huge, massive ass contract. It ain't happening. Number two, we would have to trade 3 first-round picks in all likelihood, or 2 first-round picks in a combination. Allegedly, but no, that is the price. That is the price. They got Chase Young last year.
That's crazy.
They got stinky ass Chase Young, who's a mid at this point in his career, a mid defensive end, starting quality, but mid, for a second-round pick to the 49ers, and that's because the Commanders had no interest in him anymore. I know, God forbid. But the Raiders, actually, that's one of their franchise cornerstones. Ain't happening. What's more realistic to happen, in my opinion, is us picking up a B minus, B plus type of edge player, maybe even 2. Trading away a couple 2s, maybe a couple 3s, something in that range for a couple guys to kind of fill in that gap. I think even Maxx Crosby, even as great as he is, has not been playing to Aidan Hutchinson's level this year. Aidan Hutchinson's on another plane compared to every single other league this year. So that's not even a comparison.
Right. Let me just stop you there before you talk for the next 10 minutes.
I got 10 minutes more material.
The Detroit Lions defense as a whole, every single position is better than the Raiders defense as well. So let's not compare. You're not comparing apples to oranges. Sure. I mean, apples to apples. Like, you're comparing apples to oranges right there. So
sure, but my point is,
why can't we compare fruit, Kane?
Because some fruit's better than others. Lions are just better than the Raiders. Lions are just better than Raiders. But so my point then is, so that if the asking price is 2 first and 2 second, 2 first, a third, a fourth, why not? Why not do it?
So
do you have a point, Jim?
I'll finish really quickly on that point, and then after we talk, I want to give you a few suggestions of realistic players. First of all, Brad Holmes is not trading away more than 2 firsts for someone who's going to take up a bad amount of cap space, and Maxx Crosby,
not a factor.
Player. Huh?
It's not a factor. Cap space.
Cap space isn't a factor.
I've done the math. It is. Cap space is not a factor.
You have to sign McNeil. You have to sign Branch in a couple of years. You have to sign Laporta. You have to sign.
They're not getting edge rushers.
No, but my point is, you're getting this aggregate money. You can either spend all that money to have Maxx Crosby and Aidan Hutchinson, because you're going to pay Hutch, or you can go out and sign Aleem McNeil to a deal. You can keep Onwuzurike. You can keep Brian Branch. You can keep Kirby Joseph. You can keep all these other guys that make our team what it is, or you can do the Dallas Cowboys. You can do the Dallas Cowboys and pay 3 guys $60 million.
You act like it's a zero-sum game. You act like you can't
afford both of them.
Yes, you can.
What other team in the league is paying 2 edge rushers that amount of money and actually has a good roster around them? And
what other team is a Super Bowl contender like we are? Which other team was the favorite to win Super Bowl?
What are we even talking about here? The Chiefs.
I think
we're the favorites.
Hear me out. I think there's 2 concerns here, right? 1, there's the draft capital. 2, there's the salary cap. And what a Maxx Crosby trade how would impact the Lions moving forward? I did some research. I pulled up in the last 10 years the biggest trades, equitable trades that could relate to a potential Lions for Maxx Crosby trade. And the 2, outside of the quarterbacks, the 2 most comparable trades, meaning it was for a player that was, top 3 to 5 in their position. And
don't tell me you're comparing a quarterback to an edge.
No, that's what I'm saying. I took out the QBs. I took the QB trades out. So 1 was the Orlando Brown trade, which was between the Chiefs and the Ravens.
Ravens, yep.
The Chiefs. So this was back in 2021, I believe.
Yep.
Orlando Brown still had it was at the beginning of the season, before the season started. He had the 2021 season plus the 2022 season on his contract. They gave up a first, which was late. It was a 31st overall pick, a third, a fourth, and all in 2021, along with a 2022 5th round pick. in exchange for Brown, a second and a sixth. Sorry, I'm just reading that out. So ultimately,
That's not an apples to apples trade. Maxx
What do you
Crosby
mean?
is an all-pro player, and the Chiefs were trying to negotiate a contract with Orlando Brown and couldn't. And so that's why they traded him. Maxx Crosby just signed a massive deal with the Ravens.
They got him from the Ravens, first of all.
It went the other way.
Other way around. You know what I'm saying? They could not get a deal in place. They didn't want to pay him the money, so he didn't have a deal in place. And on top of that, he was never an
You're saying he
all-pro.
wanted like an extension because he still had, from what Drew said, 2 years left on his contract.
Yes, they didn't want to pay him that money. And on top of that, his extension. And on top of that, he was never an all-pro the way that Maxx Crosby was. He was a Pro Bowl player, but he was never an all-pro.
He's the best OT
He's
in the
one
league.
of the best. He's one of the best at his position.
Nah, he still is. I mean, arguably the only one that's better is Penei.
So?
Orlando Brown?
Yeah.
There's at least 5 tackles that are better than Orlando Brown.
And now he's 37 or something. At the time, this is back
You're thinking
2020.
Right. No, I get what you're saying. That is actually good though, Drew, to conceptualize like how much it would actually take to get a player who's performing at the top of their.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is, it's going to take a first. It's going to take
more.
at least 1 or 2 day 2 picks, as well as a first round pick. The only other comparable trade was for Von Miller, who obviously also plays D end. Came from what was the Broncos after winning a Super Bowl mid-season. It was actually the same timeline, kind of week 6. Trade was made on November 1st back in 2022, and he got traded for a second and a third round pick. The difference between the two, because Von Miller was getting paid kind of similarly as what Maxx Crosby is getting paid,
right,
is that Von only had like 1 year left on his deal. If you remember correctly, obviously the Rams won the Super Bowl that year, but then Von left and signed with with the Bills. And so I think at minimum it's a second and a third.
At minimum, yes.
At minimum.
Right.
And probably a first and a third. Or 2 firsts. I think and so I'm at like, I personally, I don't think that's worth it. And I also don't think that's what Brad Holmes would do. People will talk about the window and like the lines are win now. And I get that. But what Brad Holmes does better than any other GM in the league is draft. And he drafts players really well. And what drafting well does is it extends the window.
Two completely different arguments. The 2 players that you mentioned for those blockbuster trades, what did those result in at the end of the season? Super Bowls. Both teams won Super Bowls.
Now you're
both of those
fruits.
teams won the Super Bowls. I'm just going based on what you told me.
Would you trade
Niners never won,
second
or Chiefs
for the chance to maybe win a Super Bowl based on 2 precedent trades? Would you trade 2 firsts and a second to not guarantee a Super Bowl, but to get a 50-50 shot?
To get a 50-50 shot?
Yes.
Yes.
On a roster that probably is already about 90% of the way there.
Yes.
Isn't that the point?
You're helping my
Isn't
argument.
that kind of the point?
Yes.
I don't think I am at all, because the second part of the argument I have is you could just go get a guy who's a B+ and get yourself for way less than cost.
I got something else for you.
I think Jim is onto something here, because I think a 50-50 shot this year, but the years to come are.
It's not a zero-sum game.
The cap is increasing, but it's not increasing the way that you're making it sound.
Bro, do you understand that every defensive end that gets a contract from here on out is going to be greater than Maxx Crosby's? Like, the contract that you have him here for 2 years is going to be eclipsed by the next 5 defensive ends. Aidan Hutchinson, like everyone else, is going to eclipse his.
Yeah, but name a team that has 2 ends that are getting paid that much money.
Well, if you're not paying your D tackles, if you're not paying your linebackers, if your DBs are cheap, you can afford that.
But
we're not going to have
we're not 100%. And this is the issue, Kane, that we have all these players. The other benefit of drafting well is that you get these players on cheap deals. They're on their rookie deals. They're overperforming what they're getting paid to do because they're on rookie deals. And how many players do we have like that?
A lot right now.
All right, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. No, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
J-Mo.
Okay. Wait, I know the players on the Lions. Let me ask you a question. Do you think the Lions can win the Super Bowl this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Let
me read you defensive linemen on the last 3 Super Bowl winning teams, okay? Kansas City Chiefs, Chris Jones. Rams, Aaron Donald, Ashawn Robinson, Leonard Floyd, Von Miller on the edge. Tampa Bay, Levante David, JPP, Ndamukong Suh, Shaq Barrett on the edge, and Vita Vea. Do the Lions have any defensive linemen of that caliber on their roster right now?
Yes, the Buccaneers, hold on. Those are 3 completely different situations that you just brought up. The Chiefs have one megastar and a bunch of solid players around it, which was what we had.
And we don't have it.
Hold on, I'm not done. The Rams have one star and an old Von. Let's not pretend that Von Miller in 2021 was Von Miller of 2016 when he was a first-team All-Pro.
He was good.
Good player. Yeah, good player, but not even close to it. We have a guy that quality at D tackle, Aleem McNeil. He's already playing that high of a level, if not higher. And the Buccaneers.
Also someone we're going to need to resign, right, Jim?
You really don't think Aleem McNeil is playing at that level? Are you sincere?
Von Miller level?
I'm a Lions fan.
Von Miller 2021. I would agree with Jim.
I'm a Lions fan. I'm not gonna do that.
All right, let's
okay?
look at
I'm not gonna do that.
They play different positions, but Von Miller 2021 was as
not
good as Aleem. No, he was good. He wasn't as good as he was when he was winning Defensive Player of the Year or runner-up.
When was the question ever good or not good?
Aleem will never be that good.
9.5 sacks in 2021. That's good. That is not an all-pro level player. That's not like a guy that's irreplaceable. That's a really
what? How many
player.
sacks did Aidan have last year?
11.5 with no help.
And then the year before, 9.
He was a rookie. Are we comparing a rookie to a? If Aidan Hutchinson,
I think you're vastly underappreciating Aleem McNeil, who is also someone we need to resign, by the way. Who I want to resign, who's a staple on that defense.
116 million available.
We will have enough money for both of them.
116 million again, not taking into account.
Yes, we will.
Yes, we do.
Isn't most of Maxx Crosby's guaranteed money already paid by the Raiders?
It's finished this year.
That's not how the cap works. That's not how the cap works.
It is.
No, it's not.
His cap. Anyway, your cap is like what you're paying those players. Sorry, I was talking about like his actual guaranteed money. But but we're gonna pay him. But it doesn't. You have enough. We have 116 million of cap space available for 2025. That's including the players' wages that are getting paid already next year, including all the contracts that we just created.
And didn't the Chiefs sign?
You can shake your head, but I mean that's a fact. It's literally a fact.
Yeah, it's not factoring in the guys we have not paid yet, though.
No, it's not at all.
Right, that's 116 million.
We have so many guys that need to get paid off their rookie deals because they've been drafted in the last 4 years by Brad Holmes. 3 years, whatever it is.
But didn't the Chiefs sign Chris Jones and then also draft a edge in the first round? And so they're in a similar situation where their one guy's contract's going to be coming up, and he's going to expect something big, maybe not as big as Hutch, because Hutch has been unbelievable. And then they got this already fat, huge edge contract.
Karlaftis is winning a Super Bowl. Karlaftis is not in the same universe as Hutch.
Okay, but he's good.
I think just take a step back here, and this is a point that got kind of brought up, is I think one of the silver linings, maybe the only silver lining about the Hutch injury, is that it probably lowers his contract. He's already going to come in on a home team deal, most likely when we re-signed him. It's probably going to be a little bit more friendly, which I know is like, I feel fucking disgusting even talking about that as the man is laying in a hospital bed with a cast around his leg. But I think that is, if we're going to talk about the future, that is a pressing matter, because Hutch is coming back no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, we can make the deal work next year for Maxx Crosby. It's not like 2025 this issue. And maybe if your whole point is if we're going the Ram strategy, which is screw the picks, go for broke on this Super Bowl, and next year you're either going to have to figure out trading Maxx Crosby after 2025, or you're going to need to not pay guys. That's the issue. If your strategy is go all in this year and trade a bunch of future assets away, and have to figure out after 2025 if you're not paying guys like Brian Branch and the like, but you're going to keep or you're going to trade away Maxx Crosby. It's a go for broke move. It worked for the Rams. I'm not saying there's no universe it works in. I'm just saying if you don't win the Super Bowl this year, you better hope you win it next year. Because if you don't win the Super Bowl and you gave up 2 firsts, let's say that's all you have to give up, 2 firsts, and you have to either figure out trading him or not paying some of your guys. I don't know. That's my contention is if it doesn't work,
you're more comfortable with not winning the Super Bowl this year and next year just hoping that Aiden's back and everything's good.
Well, it's no guarantee that we're going to win the Super Bowl just because we trade for Maxx Crosby.
Never. I mean, no team's winning without an elite dominant edge defender.
Listen,
at the end of the day.
not one.
Listen,
not an elite defensive lineman. At least one.
I get it. To answer George's question, I think we went through how many years of hell as a fan base? Decades, right? I don't want to freaking blow my load and jeopardize the future. I want to create something that's sustainable. And I also, outside of this is not even about what I would do as a GM, because I'm so far from that seat. I'm in damn medical school. I'm learning about tibias and fibulas.
Check that one out.
What
Weird flex.
What I'm trying to project is what Brad Holmes is going to do. And what we know from Brad Holmes' track record is that the most likely guy to replace Aidan Hutchinson is going to be LT Overton from Alabama, the D end, in the draft next year.
What do you?
I guess what I'm saying is like, do we actually think that this is something that the Lions front office would do? Like, actually go out and trade for Maxx Crosby?
No, I don't think we'd wreck our picks. We wouldn't trade
just
all
because
those
they've
picks.
never done it before. We haven't been, bro. We were in a rebuild phase. We had to start young. We had to rebuild. We're not in a rebuilding phase.
And if we do it and we win the Super Bowl, it's going to be great. If we do it and we don't win
honestly,
the Super Bowl,
Kane, that's the best point you've made. You're right. We're not in a rebuilding phase. So do we take a step back from the focus on the draft class? I think it could. I don't think it's going to be for what Maxx Crosby demands. I think it would way more likely be for a different player. That's the fact of the matter is something needs to happen, because this is not the first, not the second, the third D end, starting caliber D end we've lost this year. If you guys, obviously Aidan, Marcus Davenport, and then John Kaminsky.
Barnes.
We lost. Oh no. Yeah. John Kaminsky, who we lost before the season with an MCL, who might come back and be ready around end of the season.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a timeline on that.
So might,
but
Hutchinson might too.
Well, something is going to need to happen.
Right. And so Jim brought up a point that there's other players that we could potentially go after. Jim, did you want to shed some light on what your thoughts were for that?
Yes. Look, I while I'm not on the train of getting Maxx Crosby, if they get him, I'm going to be ecstatic. I'm going to root for him hard. I'm just not. I don't think it's the best move. I don't think it's what they're going to do.
Right.
But if they get him, obviously I'm going to be pumped. That being said, there's a lot of way less exciting guys out there that are either some combination of a little older but still good, or have an expiring contract on a horrible team. There's a couple names. I'll just throw them out there. We don't need to go deep dive in all of them. Darius Smith on the Browns. If the Browns keep just playing horribly, he's a good veteran guy. He's been around the NFC North a lot. We can cut him after this year for we don't want to for $14 million of dead cap. We have that much cap space, but you can also hold on to him for next year for relatively cheap and pair him with Aidan Hutchinson, and bring in another young guy. Really build that edge depth. Javian Clowney, a name that people are familiar with, not an amazing pass rusher, so that could be a non-starter, but he is just he's a really good end. Still can play the run really well. So maybe if you get him, I think you'd have to also get someone who can actually pass rush. Not necessarily at the Hutch level again. And there's a trio of guys on the Titans. I think the first two are more realistic, which is Harold Perkins and Arden Key. Then you've also got Jeffrey Simmons, who I doubt they'd part with him, or honestly on the Jags, Josh Hines Allen, two guys that are, I think, an obvious step below Maxx Crosby, but still at their best are game changers. So, if you tell me I can trade one first for a Jeffrey Simmons, I don't think the Titans would do that, but if you could trade one first for a Jeffrey Simmons or one first for a Josh Allen, the DN, not the quarterback, I think that's a deal I would consider doing. One, because it gives you another D end, and two, you're spending less. Now, same issue, you have the cap space, so I don't know if I'd really do it, but if you could do like 2 2s for Josh Hines Allen, which again the Jags would never do, that'd be a great upside. But realistic guys, would probably be Arden Key, Harold Landry, or Zadarius Smith.
Yeah, and so Drew, I think getting into your last point, you're kind of on the complete opposite side of the fence of like not bringing anybody in. And I'll let you get into that, but Jim, yours sounds the most likely because we're so thin now at the edge rusher position. Like we kind of have to, because one more injury and Brian Branch is playing edge. So
yeah,
no, fuck it. Malcolm Rodriguez, man. I mean, put him out there, but
Nowatzki
he's already out there. Jeez.
Yeah,
Shout out
Trevor.
to Trevor Nowatzki. Yeah, Trevor Nowatzki. Shout out to him getting his first sack as a Detroit Lion. That was awesome.
Versailles had another tackle later on.
Mm-hmm. Maybe he's the answer. But what about you, Drew? What are you thinking?
Did
you guys not hear him for the first 5 seconds?
It cut out. It lagged.
All right. Go again. You're good now. Go again.
I might have touched on this already. I don't think that there's going to be no move, right? There has to be a move. At the bare minimum, there has to be a move because we've got an open spot on the 53. So something's going to happen. I'm trying to envision what Brad Holmes does and put all the pieces of the puzzle together. And there's the historical piece that this has never happened before. That Brad Holmes has never given up draft capital for a mid player. There's a second piece that's like, you saw in the post game, Dan Campbell say this is the tightest the team's ever been. And so there's a chemistry factor that nobody's going to get brought in if they don't fit the mold. Right. And so I'm trying to envision what's going to happen. And I think the most likely scenario is that they elevate guys from the practice squad, or they sign a veteran off the street and they change their defensive scheme. And I don't love it. Like I would like, my guilty pleasure would be to see Maxx Crosby playing out there, but I just don't think that is good for the franchise. And I don't think it's what Brad Holmes would do. And that's where I like put my trust. And so at most I see us giving up a late day 2 pick for, someone like Ashawn Robinson to come back. He plays for the Panthers now. Get him back or something like that. Like something where a player is familiar with the franchise or players on our team and fits the mold of what they're trying to build. Because they do still have something special. Something we've totally like brushed over is the fact that we probably have the best offense in the NFL. We can score 1 million points on other teams. And that our defense still played pretty damn well in the absence of Aidan.
We did say that the Cowboys gave up, but they played decent. Yeah, they played decent. They played good. They played fucking good. What am I saying?
So maybe it's time for Pascal and Justin Houston to step up. Sorry,
I wish we had Justin Houston.
I don't think they like James Houston.
No,
I don't know what, but
street
like
clothes, bro.
Yeah, I don't think they like
James
him.
Houston.
No, but
I don't think the coaches like him.
No.
Onzarike, though, he's been playing edge a lot. I think he's going to be a permanent edge player right now.
I thought they were kind of holding James Houston back as potential trade bait, not to get him hurt or anything, because we didn't need him necessarily. But I don't know.
Dude just sucks this run.
Was asked about to be suiting up, so
yeah.
Right. I will say this: I did want Maxx Crosby, but if we traded 2 first-round picks for him, I know that's the asking price. They're saying they won't settle for anything less than that. Fuck that. That is a horrible fucking idea.
No, I say that though. This is the one thing that I hate when you guys say two first. Okay, we need an offensive lineman. There are 5 dog offensive linemen, like good offensive linemen. They won't be there at between 28 and 32. Okay, so who else can we get? Let's get a dog edge. They won't be there. You want us to go get some, like, you guys, like, I don't know what you're holding out for.
Good drafting teams. I don't know if I agree with that, actually, because good teams that draft well, like, granted, they're not going to be at 20, but the Lions got Ragnow at 20 when they got him. And
Lions won't be drafting at 20.
Well, even if they're drafting at 32, the Chiefs, good teams have proven that they can stay good for a long time by continuing to draft well in the later part of the first round, later part of the second round. Like, the Chiefs have hit on a lot more picks than they've missed on. They've been drafting in the back half of the Chris Jones, I don't remember what he was drafted at.
Yeah.
But, like, I mean, for example, Laporta's, in a sense, obviously tight end's not as important as some of the other positions we talked about, but, like, Laporta is arguably, I mean, he hasn't had a great start to the season, but he's top 5 at minimum tight end. Travis Kelce, best tight end in the league. George Kittle, one of the best tight ends in the league. All those guys, Isaiah Likely, like, all those guys are later round picks. Chris Jones is a day 2 pick, second round, 37th pick.
Right.
You're not getting guarantees like you get with the Hutch, like you get with
Right.
Who else have we drafted high lately? You know, some of the guys we drafted high lately. But you're
Gibbs and whatnot.
Gibbs, yeah. But if you are good at drafting, which Brad Holmes has proven to be, his second round picks are, like, I think that's almost the best part of his drafting.
Give up your first. Give up 2 first.
That's a more compelling argument now at this point. I still don't think we should, but
2,
it's a more
3.
compelling argument.
He eats in those 2nd through 3, 4th rounds. He eats there. Brian Branch, baby.
I think, honestly, the draft capital is not as important to me. If I were to, like, summarize my stance on this whole thing, like, I trust Brad Holmes to find first round talent in, like, the goddamn 5th round.
Hell yeah.
And
fourth round, yeah.
And he's shown that, right? And so I think that I'm way more concerned what this says to the team. Not only with, like, and hear me out, saying that, like, okay, we lost this player, the best defender in the NFL, arguably, huge heartbeat, but we're now going to try to bring in and replace him. And all of, like, what we've built, and we being what the Lions have built over the last 3 years, about, hey, you come in, you work hard, you're going to get paid, right? That we said that this sends a message to the team that Aidan meant more. We now need to replace him with this, like, arguably the best player at his position, and we're going to give up all these assets. It just speaks against, I think, what the culture they've built. And so, yeah, I don't think Maxx Crosby is realistic, because for all those reasons, it just isn't what I think they would do. And
fits the culture, bro.
But what does it say that now, okay, Kirby Joseph, you know, you were, you know, playing really well. We can't re-sign you. There's going to be someone that can't be re-signed because of the Maxx Crosby contract. 100%. That money's going to be tied
you can literally drop Maxx Crosby in a year for no dead cap space.
That's
not this year. One full year. You can have him for 1 full year. Him and Aidan.
In that time period, we're going to have to re-sign all these players, because that's the timeline. They get, like,
Zeitler, Carlton Davis, Aleem, Craig Reynolds, Skipper, Barnes, Davenport, Kaminsky.
That's this year.
That's 2025.
What if Monty just re-signed a contract? Yeah,
it's in here. The date is in.
He got re-signed a year and a half early, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that is the timeline. That
116 million.
That stud players like Branch, like potentially JMO, like Kirby Joseph, that's the timeline they're going to be looking for contract extensions. And if that money's tied up with Maxx Crosby, I don't see it feasible to bring back all those guys that we drafted, that we're trying to build this.
All right. I don't understand what's not getting through to you guys. 116 million.
Look,
Lions available cap space.
I think as a collective, we've beaten the brakes off of this, because we're just not gonna see eye to eye as a group. Honestly, I think we have 4 differing opinions in different ways. Like, some of the things Drew says, I totally agree with. Other things he says, I almost make a face at. Same with Kane.
Yeah.
George, I know, loves
I say
Maxx Crosby.
spend that imaginary stupid fucking money. Fucking get anybody we fucking want. It'll figure itself out with Brad Holmes. I'm not fucking worried.
Hey,
Spend that money.
You're not convinced me of anything until you cry, George.
You want me to?
Well, you guys got anything else to add for any other talking points? It's hot in this room.
Shout out to those Cowboy fans that were in my comment section on Instagram. You can go fuck yourself. Ball doesn't fucking lie. And yeah, go get fucking crammed, bitch.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Lions Main podcast. Let us know your guys' thoughts. Do you agree with George? Do you agree with Drew? Do you agree with Jim? Or do you agree with me? I don't think I even took a stance. And then, as always, we'll see you guys on Friday. Have a good one. Fuck you, Dallas.
Fuck Dallas.